Here we go.
And now the story of a poor podcast, and the one person who kept them all together. It's the Confirmed Epic Podcast. I'm Jerry Reed, also known as Barbecue17.
I'm Gina Wiltshire, also known as Gina Beater.
I'm Kristen, also known as Arathalia.
And I'm Brad Bell, also known as the real Brad Bell.
Joining us today, we have a special guest sitting in on our session. We have Tracy Turner. Tracy, say hi to everyone out there.
Hi.
Tracy's just going to be sitting in and listening today, but if she wants to laugh, she is free to laugh. So, if you hear some laughing very low to the ground, that's Tracy. Well, today's our special episode where we're going to be obviously talking about Arrested Development, the show that won't die. It came back for its 4th season through Netflix, and I think we can all say, all of us who actually watched it here, that we were excited that it was back, and it was a good thing. Netflix did not make a huge mistake. We'll put it that way. So let's start off, though, as usual. Once again, we're the Confirmed Epic Podcast, the official podcast of theepicreview.com. Well, let's start off things as usual and talk about what everybody's checking out. So if I'm going to pick here, and Arathalia, what have you been checking out this week?
I actually have not had a whole lot of time to check much out this week because I have been working on my costume for Heroes Con in Charlotte this weekend.
Excited.
I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I will tell you that it involves a little black dress and eggs.
Very interesting.
Yeah, okay.
So Heroes Con is the local convention we have that the Charlotte's comic book store, Heroes Aren't Hard to Find,
Yep.
have been putting on for 31 years.
31 years. That's amazing.
And I've been going since 2004. And you guys have been going the last couple years.
This is going to be my 4th year at Heroes Con, and I mean, a lot of people, it's getting bigger every year, but it still very and truly is a comic book convention. It's not overrun with, movies and, all kinds of other stuff. It really is a comic book convention with a lot of cosplay, some great cosplayers there as well,
costumes. Which
is always fun. A lot of toy vendors. I know Brad and I were talking about stuff we're looking to pick up this week at Heroes Con, so Arathalia is working on her costume, and I'm sure you'll see it on the site after Saturday.
Yeah, I'm gonna write up a big blurb about our costumes because I've been working on mine too. Finish mine. And Tracy, we got Tracy's done, and so Jerry, we're waiting on yours. Is yours done yet?
Mine's about done. I have everything there, and there's one thing I've got to decide if I'm going to actually do it or not. So, like one element of it, because I've been looking at it, and it may look better to do less work on it.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. But it's really cool. I'm not keeping mine too secret. Mine is a G.I. Joe costume. First time I've been the Doctor, the 11th Doctor the past couple years. So this is a G.I. Joe costume from G.I. Joe Sigma 6, which is a lot of people's probably their least favorite incarnation of G.I. Joe. But it's definitely one of my favorites in terms of the awesome action figures and the great community that popped up, especially around.
They're very good looking figures. And
yeah.
So they're fun costumes.
Very cool. So I'm excited to show it to some of my old friends from JoeBattleLines.com and Sigma6Central.com.
So hopefully we'll have a lot of pictures on the site next week about different costumes.
I think everybody's going in costume except the real Brad Bell.
Yeah, what's up with
I
that?
have my geek limits. I refuse to cosplay because I feel like if I'm going to cosplay, I'm going to go all out and want to look exactly like the person. Like I put it on the Facebook page, but the penguin from Phoenix Comic-Con, I don't know if Kristen, if any of y'all saw it.
I didn't see it.
Just like Danny DeVito penguin from Batman Returns.
No,
I mean, it was freaky.
Man.
And I mean, he probably had thousands of dollars into that costume.
Have you seen the guy he goes by Harley's Joker? You can find him on Facebook. I mean, he looks like a comic book Joker. I mean, his facial expressions and everything is one of the best Joker costumes I've ever seen. I mean, if they put him in a movie, it'd be fantastic.
There was a photo going around the web the last couple
I
weeks,
think
a
this- yeah.
lot of people thought it was fake. It was
Yeah.
the Heath Ledger Joker.
Yes, that's what I was going to bring up, yeah.
Do you remember what convention that was
I don't
from?
remember what convention it was from. I do not remember the guy's name, but this guy looked exactly like the Heath Ledger Joker.
Yes.
Like, people thought that the Heath Ledger Joker had been photoshopped into these pictures.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
exactly.
The makeup was so spot on.
And if you've never, you know, if you're just hearing about Heroes Con, if you're not in the North Carolina, the South, this area, I encourage you to check it out because, like Jerry was saying, it is one of the last true comic book conventions. And there are bigger and you may say better conventions like your WonderCons, your San Diego Comic Cons, stuff of that nature. But this is widely regarded by many comic book lovers and comic book resources. Like sincerely, the website Comic Book Resources considers it the last big true comic book convention.
Yeah, I mean, rarely do you have to wait in line. I mean, sometimes they'll have somebody really big who's there for just a little bit of time. Stan Lee was huge. You had to wait in line. But a lot of the time, there's just so many great people you can walk up to and chat with them multiple times. I mean, I talked to Bill Willingham for a while. Earl Norham, Mike Mignola's always there.
Speaking of which, you owe me shoes. He told you to buy me shoes last year.
I'm sure you've probably bought plenty of shoes since that time. So
yeah, but I bought them.
You're getting shoes, 2 little shoes.
Yeah, you're
so.
right.
All
you
right.
can actually
That
walk
doesn't
up
count.
to the writers and chat with them about the ongoing storylines,
Yeah.
which is something you can't do because any other convention you go to in the country with these big name writers is a huge convention with lines that's going to take at least 30 to 40 minutes to get through. So it's a unique experience.
So. All right, so you've been working on your costume.
Yes, I have.
And accompanying me as we went around all day on Saturday to look for
his costume,
elements for my costume. So let's jump on over to Brad. Brad, what have you been checking out this week?
Well, it's a couple weeks, down the road, but the Office finale.
Back
NBC,
down the road.
Back down the road, yes. Back down the road. But it's the Office finale. NBC's the American version of The Office, which was one of my most beloved shows on the air the past 8 seasons. I believe it was 8 or 9 seasons. I think it was 9 seasons even. But the last 2 were without Steve Carell's Michael Scott, so that was very disheartening. But I mean, it really kind of changed the way people in America look at humor on TV, as we kind of, in an era where reality shows were all the rage and, the sitcom comedy had kind of fallen by the wayside, it kind of came back to American airwaves when they did the American version of The Office. It wasn't your traditional, family type comedy, but it was this awkward style comedy that shows like Parks and Rec and I guess Arrested Development predated
and all of that was really influenced by sort of the mockumentary style of the Christopher Guest films like This Is Spinal Tap, Waiting for Guffman, A Mighty Wind, Best in Show. All of those films use that same style of having people talk to the camera and.
But this, I agree with you. It did use that same style, but this ushered it in the world so widely used and ushered in the TV. And of course, Ricky Gervais playing the Michael Scott character on the BBC version of the show. They did it initially. It ran for about 2 seasons or so, and the show was popular in England. But as the first season of The Office came on, it was about 6 episodes or so.
Yeah, first season's really short.
It was okay, and then the second season hit, and it just huge ratings took off. They were scared they weren't even going to get renewed, and it took off so big in the second season. Of course, Ricky Gervais is the one who really helped bring it to American airwaves. He said he knew it took off big when he would be out in public, out in restaurants, and people would say, "Oh, he plays Steve Carell's character on the British version." So that you really solidified yourself in a role as Steve Carell did with Michael Scott when you play the role second, that you surpass. Ricky Gervais is a really funny guy. I know he's British, but he's recognizable in the States. He is.
I thought you were going to say, he's a really funny guy. I know he's British, but he's still really funny.
But he's not as...
he is recognizable. I mean, he's had a lot of films that have that have done over here. He's a lot of cameo type stuff too. So.
I will say that Steve Carell, I think, is one of the best TV actors that transitioned into movies. I think his career is one of the best that we've seen, where it pretty much started in TV, and now he's almost he is fully in film, and I think he's both a great TV actor and a film actor, and I think he did that really, really smoothly.
I'm glad you brought that up, because whenever I love Steve Carell, and I think the 40-Year-Old Virgin and The Office that was all kind of hit at the same time, and it's like Steve Carell had been on The Daily Show, he had been in Anchorman, but when 40-Year-Old Virgin hit,
one of the voices in Ambiguously Gay Duo.
Really?
Saturday Night Live.
He was.
Yeah,
right.
him and Steve Carell and Mo Rocca, I think, were the two.
But his career reached a new level with the 40-Year-Old Virgin and The Office hitting. He became A-list.
Mm-hmm.
And everything Steve Carell does in film, we reviewed The Incredible Burt Wonderstone a couple months ago. But everything he does, I enjoy. He's really good. Like Date Night. Good, fun movie.
A good movie.
But nothing and I've seen about everything Carell's done. But I feel like nothing compares as far as, I'm talking about at a humor level. Now, he's one of these comedians that does such a good job of mixing. He can balance humor and heart. And he can make you care about Michael Scott. Even is kind of he's a flawed character, but he makes you care so much about him. The 40-Year-Old Virgin's this raunchy R-rated comedy, but you care so much about this character. He does such a good job balancing that. And
I also feel like he does a really good job of playing different characters.
Yeah.
You know, because his Michael Scott character is totally different from his Despicable Me voice acting, which is different from his Burt Wonderstone.
By the way,
who's really different than Brick.
He's a very diverse actor,
Did anybody see Ellen where he showed up in
I saw a picture of it. That was hilarious.
He showed up in the full
the costume,
Me
a live
Gru costume.
Oh, that's funny.
It was really well done. But I was going to say I love Steve Carell, but I don't think he's never, maybe it's just because I'm so used to seeing him as Michael Scott, but I think he's at his funniest when he was in The Office and 40-Year-Old Virgin. I don't think he don't make me laugh out loud too much anymore. I appreciate what he is, who he is, and his name alone draws in people. But
wait till Anchorman 2. I think
do you think he'll be because, I mean, in Anchorman, now let me just preface, I'm not an Anchorman fan. I think it's overrated. I'm like,
I would agree with that.
Outcast by my generation. Well. All my friends, absolutely.
All my male friends feel the same way
about
me.
Anchorman is one of those where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
So, but it's been years since I've seen Anchorman. Steve Carell, I mean, he's not a huge role in that film, is he? I mean, he's
he's one of the lead four. I mean, he's
just a side note in the
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I mean...
Is it him, Paul Rudd, and...
He has a real specific role and really steals the movie every time he's on the scene. I mean... But
you think he'll be a bigger part
I think he'll definitely be a bigger part.
Steve Carell he's as big as Will Ferrell, almost.
Yeah,
if not.
I think his character also was a lot of people's favorite part of that first movie.
Yeah, to some extent.
I mean, to most people, I think that's, if you quote lines, you're either quoting Ron.
It's true.
Yes,
or you're quoting Brick.
Yeah.
Well, you say quoting lines. Alamo Drafthouse Theaters had a showing of Anchorman, and it was a quote along, and they served scotch, and you were encouraged to.
Normally they're very strict about no talking and.
No,
stuff
Alamo
Drafthouse.
Drafthouse.
That's true.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, you whip out a cell phone.
Well, they're kind of doing like what the Rocky Horror Picture Show did.
It's just an interesting venue for that because they're usually so strict about
but they encourage this. Sometimes they like to have these event level showings.
Exactly.
And they encourage people to quote along. And I wouldn't want to go to the Anchorman, but it sounded like it could be fun.
I know. I ate a whole red candle.
Andrew, my girlfriend, they quote the Anchorman all the time, and it's just like, Oh, Scotch. I mean,
You pooped in the refrigerator.
no,
You
God.
ate an entire wheel of cheese?
Oh my God.
I'm not mad. I'm impressed.
If I quote a movie, it's like, why are you quoting that? That's so. Why do you remember?
Everybody quotes Anchorman.
But
though.
everybody,
Yeah, it's just one of
everybody.
those.
not me.
It was a big deal when it first came out.
It
Yes,
really
it
was.
was.
It really was. So, all right, Brad. Well, you've been checking out.
Can I
Steve
say one more thing
Sure.
real quick about The Office?
I was saying you've been checking out Steve Carell. You've been checking out The Office.
I'll check
so.
out Steve Carell at any time.
All right.
That's what she said. However, just such a great show. As much as Michael Scott is the straw that stirs the drink, it's such a great ensemble cast. It really
True.
Yeah.
is. And it was interesting as you had the love story of Pam and Jim, which I will argue is it's the best TV love story since Ross and Rachel from Friends.
I would agree.
And as that kind of grew and you were with those characters and then even after that storyline wrapped up, there was still some substance there. And the next to the last season was kind of bad, and the finale was incredible. I mean, it was Michael Scott came back. He came back and filmed his scenes. He showed up to be Dwight's best man at his wedding, and that was really cool. And it ended with Ed Hims. They all went back to the office after Dwight's wedding, and they're kind of, everybody's moving on with their lives and stuff. But I won't say too much in case you want to watch
you might want to call
Office.
spoilers on this.
But Andy's there, Ed Hims playing his banjo, and they're kind of all doing one last interview, and it was. And I know people have said this before. But there were two things that really stuck with me, and it's really cool. I want to share it with the listeners. If you didn't see it, even if you didn't watch it, it's still cool to share. Pam was talking about how so many years she was with Jim, and she was with the wrong person, and she wanted to speak to him and stuff like that. And she said, live your life like a TV show, and you're watching a TV show, like you're watching that person on the camera, and you know how you think, oh, if she would just get with him, if he would just get with her. That she was like, live your life like that. Pursue relationships like that. You know what you should do. So that was interesting. And then Ed Hims had one of the last lines, and he was saying, sometimes, because the finale takes place a year after the next to the last episode.
Okay.
And it's an hour and 30-minute special. And Ed Hims says, I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days when you're in them.
Mm.
So just appreciate each moment, each struggle. You may look back one day and be like, man, I had it made back then. And I didn't appreciate the people I was interacting with. So it was an emotional episode. I about cried. A lot of people did cry.
Sounds like you're about to cry now.
I know, yeah, it's kind of breaking me sad.
I know.
And then as soon as it was over, I went and ordered... artist Jason Edmondson, it wasn't a Mondo poster, but he's one of Mondo's artists, did an Office poster, and it's got like a different thing that represents all of the characters sitting on Dwight's desk. There's like a Jello mold that has Dwight's bobblehead in it, Andy's banjos on there, Stanley's crossword. It's a really cool piece. So
very cool.
So I'll have that to remind me of The Office all the time. But enough about that.
All right, Gina, what have you been checking out this week?
Well, I was trying to decide if I wanted to talk about Hellboy or The Big Bang. So what do you guys want to talk about?
Let's talk about Hellboy.
Big Bang. How about
Chrissy,
both?
you're the tie.
It all started with the Big Bang.
Okay.
Bang!
We'll talk about Big Bang. Or we can talk about
Yes,
both.
this
It
is going to
doesn't
be
matter.
I'm
great.
happy
Well,
with either. But
I just want to talk about Hellboy because, one, Gina likes Hellboy so much that I've introduced her to it. She is wearing a... Gina, tell everybody what you're wearing that you made.
Jared, listen to this. Gina. Let's
Shout
talk
it!
about the Big Bang. I'm kidding.
No, well, I'll just say Hellboy real fast. So I've read the first 3 volumes, and hopefully Jerry will let me borrow the next couple of few. I read all 3 volumes in about 2 days. So I loved it, and I liked it so much that I'm a big crafter, and I do a lot of like sewing and crocheting and stuff. And so
she's
it's like,
crafty.
exactly.
Very great.
So
The Beastie Boys.
I decided that I wanted to make a Hellboy hat that had his broken off horns on it, and so I created a pattern and I made it up in about 2 hours, and so I'm wearing my crocheted Hellboy hat, which I'm thinking about putting on Etsy. If anybody wants their own, I can make it for you. We'll definitely have a link on the site.
Yep.
So I'll take some pictures of it, and if you want a Hellboy hat, you can.
Can you do different sizes? Because I have an abnormally large head.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah. There'll be a
She'll
small,
custom
medium,
fit it
and
for you.
large.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll let you know how big the circumference is. But
Can you
anyway,
do an Anung Umrama version that has the horns?
the only problem with that is
How
They
they
may
would
go
sit.
limp.
no. The problem would be they'd get really heavy.
Yeah,
And so
I-
they'd fall forward.
Totally joking.
Yeah.
Totally joking.
I did actually think
You don't
about
want
it,
to
though.
get too horny.
You could make it. You could add a chain strap that would hold it in place. That would look really cool too.
Or like ear flaps, and then you could tie it.
Of course, if you got the big
Yes,
horns, everybody would
definitely.
think you were the Tim Curry from Legend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
this
know,
is true.
when I first started
This is
getting
true.
into geek culture, I saw that. I was like, is that like an alternate version of Hellboy?
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
not.
really?
It's not.
No, it's definitely not.
But anyway, yeah. So I think Mike Manola does lots of great work.
Good guy, too. We met him
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
couple
he's
of times.
super
Always
Good guy.
very nice.
Very
Is he
nice.
coming this year?
No.
Yeah,
No, he's not
He
coming.
will not
this
be
year.
there this year.
Man.
I know.
That's like the
was.
one guy that I'd be really
That's
excited to meet.
disappointing. I always
So-
look forward to
He was there the last 2 years.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
been there.
But anyway,
been
so-
the last 2 or 3.
2
Yeah.
or 3 years. Yeah.
Big Bang. I've watched all 4 seasons in the span of a week.
So you're moving along. Because there's been 6 seasons.
They
now.
are currently on the 6th.
Yeah, well, it
season.
just ended in the spring.
Okay,
so.
yeah, so 6 seasons.
So I
Yeah, it is
have to
spring,
find
isn't
a
it?
copy of the 5th. Maybe I can find it online.
We've got
or
one.
something.
So what
Oh,
do you think
I'm
about
watching
Big Bang,
it,
Gina?
so-
I'm
Oh my
interested.
gosh, I love it. It's
Good.
like
You and everybody else in America.
I know. It's what you don't like it.
Speak up, Tracy. Tell us what you.
Well, I've never
What's
really
your
watched
beef?
it. I've never really gotten the jokes on it, and maybe I'm just not smart enough.
Well, that's what's so
That's
funny
part of
is
the
you
humor,
don't get
though.
it.
That's what's so great about the show is that there's 2 sides of the humor. There's the humor of the people who understand what they're talking about, going, "Oh my gosh, that's hilarious! I get it." And then there's the humor of the people
Maybe
Sitting
I should
back-
give it a chance.
sitting back and going, "Oh my gosh, these people are such nerds. I have no idea what they're talking about, and it's hilarious."
I'm glad you brought that up because I want to get back. I want Gina to tell me more about her impression of the show. Then I won't get back to that point. Gina,
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Well, I watched the first season while I was dog sitting for Jerry and Kristen. And at the end of it, I was like, man, this is a great show. I hate Sheldon, but I love this show. And the reason why I hated Sheldon in the first series is because he is so logical that he's heartless
He's
in
like
the
Spock.
first.
He's worse than Spock.
He's like a
He-
sentient praying mantis.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, he's so heartless in the first season because they haven't like begun to humanize him yet, and I think
Oh, they did.
I think Penny is the catalyst for humanizing Sheldon. But
Have you
once
got
you get
to Amy
into
Farrah Fowler?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she's at least in all of the 4th season.
Yeah,
I don't.
she's-
Is she in the
Forgot
third?
what
She
season.
shows up at the end of
End of season 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the
season
that's the
finale.
season.
Yes.
Yeah, so, but then once I started watching season 2, Sheldon actually became one of my most favorite characters because he
Along with
actually
everybody else
starts-
in America.
he starts becoming human. Basically, he starts trying to understand social constructs, and he starts trying to comfort. I like one of their long-standing jokes is the fact that anytime someone comes over and they're upset about something, he makes them tea. And it's not optional. They have to have tea
Yeah.
because that's what he learned is the social convention for comforting someone is to make tea. But no, I love the Leonard Penny love thing.
So does everybody else in
Whatever
America.
it is.
You keep saying that.
Well, that's because I'm trying to hint at my point, but I want Gina to continue.
Is your point the fact that this show is lame because everybody
No,
are you
that's
being
not my
hipster
point.
right
My
now?
point
Yeah,
is,
Brett's-
He's totally a
Me,
hipster.
I've spoken with this about. I love The Big Bang. It's
Yeah.
one of my favorite shows on TV.
So does
right
I
now.
might be
Along
going
with
in the
everyone else in America.
I might be going in the
Exactly.
same direction as Brad, but I want to hear where he goes
But
first.
Jerry and I have spoken about
Then we
this.
then
okay.
maybe.
The Big Bang starts off as this kind of almost similar to what Community is. This kind of about a group of geeky friends, and it's a very interesting show. And you kind of got to be into that either the geek culture or the scientific culture to really get the jokes like you guys were talking about. As the show moves forward, and Gina, you'll see this, especially when you get to the last 2 seasons. We go from this kind of unique, kind of fresh, almost like a a modernized Revenge of the Nerds type
I can
show.
see that, except they're not as much nerd stereotypes as
Revenge of the Nerds.
that one's. But I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes they are there. So.
Yeah.
So we
sometimes,
we go from that to basically now we're at where we have the geeky version of Friends. And it is the most popular show. 25 million people a week watch this show. I don't care who you are. I mean, people, you never read a comic book, you may not know who Batman is, but you know who Sheldon Cooper is. He's already become one of the most iconic. He's as iconic as Fonzie from Happy Days. I mean, any type of TV character. I mean, Joey from Friends. Frasier, he's at a Frasier type level already. You can go up to anybody on the street in America right now for the most part. They know who Dr. Sheldon Cooper is. They know Soft Kitty. They know Penny. I mean, everybody knows it, and it's like
Bazinga.
Bazinga.
I
Everybody
mean, that's a
knows
catchword.
Bazinga.
Yeah.
It's like I like both. It's almost like you gotta have 2 versions of the same show.
Yeah.
And I get it. The characters evolve. They move past kind of just being these lonely, geeky guys to carrying on relationships and stuff. But now, you know how in the first couple seasons, Jerry knows, because he was a big fan of early Big Bang, you had these witty, geeky jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like a raunchy comedy. It's
Yeah,
not really separate.
I
from
haven't
any
seen it
constantly sleeping
I haven't
around.
seen
It's
the
all,
5th or 6th season
Yeah.
at all.
Well, I'm not
I'm
gonna
only a
spoil
little
or
ways into
anything.
the 5th season,
But it's
so.
all. It's all. I mean, I'm not
But,
saying I'm above
I mean, it's-
sexual comedy, but I mean that's what it is.
Well, it's reaching that now. I mean, and even in season 4, it's
Yeah,
leaning more towards. I mean, I definitely have noticed a lot of that. It's not nearly as clever. You watch the first, episode from the first season. You watch an episode from the 4th or 5th season, and they are very, very different. I really do miss that. That's what I thought was so clever about it. What I had stated that whether you get the jokes or not, it's still hilarious. And they've moved away from that. You don't have those nerdy jokes anymore.
And every once in a while you'll have. There was a great later episode. I absolutely loved it, and I'm not gonna spoil this for anybody, but it was they were going to a Star Trek convention, and this may have been the last season, because I'm the only one who watches the show live. Y'all watch it on DVD, so you're a little behind.
We don't have cable.
Yeah, we don't do the cable thing.
But anyway, so Raj is like a Cleon. I just have to say he was
I've
awesome.
seen pictures from that episode,
and
yeah.
Leonard was Picard, and it was Next Generation. But anyway,
So who was Sheldon? I gotta
I
ask.
forgot who he was.
He did good Borg.
I cannot remember. It was
Data?
on Next Gen. Yeah, he was
Data.
Data.
Oh,
he was
yes,
Data.
yeah.
He did Data,
He had the
too.
makeup, yeah.
And I can't remember who
Who would be
Wallowitz was. But
Riker?
I don't know if he was Riker. I can't remember.
Troy?
I mean, I love this
Was he
episode.
Geordie? Did someone do a visor?
Has everybody gotten to
remember.
where Wallowitz is with
Bernadette.
Bernadette?
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
yes,
Okay.
we all know he's with
And I think most of America knows that. But he's with Bernadette. They're together now, and they go to this convention, and on the way there they're in all the makeup, and they get stranded on the side of the road. The car breaks down. They can't get help, and nobody takes them seriously because they're in the Star Trek stuff. And they go. I mean, they just got crap all over them. They go to the bar. Not to a bar. They go to like a diner, and they're all calling their people. Their cell phones were in their car. They had stopped to take a photo shoot, before the convention. They got their car stolen. They walked to a diner, and everybody's there. They're asked to go up to the diner. It's like, can I call somebody? They were like, you want us to call your mom? You know, and it's like, it's this kind of heartfelt episode where they're like, what are we doing with our lives? We're like 40 years old, not 40, well, late 30s probably. We're 30 years old, and we're still dressing up and going to these conventions. And Wallace is like, I have a girl. Now, like, why do we do this? And, you know, the only one who's like, we do this because we love it and stuff like that is Raj. And it's a brilliant kind of, it almost to me was a microcosm of the show. It's like, you know, nobody takes us seriously you know, when we're this geeky thing. But, you know, and now the show's evolved past, it's just like every other raunchy comedy on TV, where every now and again they'll throw in a Batman reference. And don't get me wrong, I love that reference.
Yeah.
But you guys get my point.
Those references are the reason I want to watch the show. I mean, to be honest, and I realize this may make me, you know, completely un-American to some people, but I didn't like Friends. I was not a big fan of that show. I never really watched it. I know some of the plot lines just because everybody was talking about them, but I never
You
cared
couldn't
for
help
it.
know about it. It was big.
Exactly.
I knew it existed.
Talked about it everywhere. But, yeah, so I don't really want to watch a geeky Friends. I want to watch a geeky show. You know,
watch
that's
Community,
what I want to... If I had cable, I would.
Well, I think we're going to get talking about maybe what might be... I would call it the ultimate geeky show, because of the way that people rally around it. And that's one of the things that most makes the geek, is that we do things that we like. It doesn't matter that it's socially acceptable. It's you do things that you like. You know, you're
not ashamed to say,
sure.
Hey, I'm really into this.
And people who like Arrested Development love Arrested Development. And would dress up and walk around in blue paint all day if they could. So, let me talk real quick about what I've been checking.
Wait, Jerry, are you trying to say you're a never nude? Is that what you're trying to say?
There are dozens of us. All right, well, let me talk a little bit about what I've been checking out this week. I've actually been playing a couple video games this week. One of them that I've really enjoyed is it's an expansion, but it's a standalone expansion. You do not have to own the full game, and it's called Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Mm-hmm. It is a hodgepodge of every 80s sci-fi and action movie that you can imagine. I mean, it looks like, you know, the tone of the game is like fluorescent skies and these... Like
Tron.
Yeah, these dinosaur dragons.
It looks like you're in Tron.
It looks like the cover of like an 80s action Nintendo game where you're like, oh, it looks really cool. Then you pop it in, it's like a few little dots. But it's so cool. The lead character is Rex Powercolt. He's voiced by Michael Biehn from Terminator. He was Kyle Reese in Terminator, and he was Corporal Hicks in Aliens. And I mean, once again, has kind of the Duke Nukem thing going on where, I mean, his lines are ridiculous.
I was hearing the lines, and I was just cracking up.
Says in this deep, throaty voice, "Send in a medic so I can kill him too." And I mean, it's crazy, but like the weapons, like his pistol is RoboCop's, 50 caliber pistol that shoots in a 3-shot burst, and it's called the AJM for gosh, oh my gosh, I forgot his first name. Murphy, the officer who was RoboCop. Mm-hmm. The shotgun is called the Galleria. The Galleria 1992, which Terminator 2 came out in 92. Yes. And John Connor first met Terminator at the Galleria Mall, the T-800. Yeah. And it's the same rifle or the shotgun that Arnold uses.
Is there an arcade in the mall?
That's the name of the gun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about they were in a mall.
The gun is called the Galleria, Galleria 1992, but it's just such a really cool game. I mean, once again, it's really short. I probably beat it in about 12...
Pretty quickly.
12 to 15 hours, but I mean, it's only a 1,600 Microsoft point download for Xbox 360, so that was $20, maybe $15, $20 or something like that. But I enjoyed it. It was really fun. It was just a great homage to all. I mean, it had Rocky references in it. Had references to RoboCop, Terminator, anything from the 80s and early 90s that you could think of. Even the music was very reminiscent of the music from the original Terminator. The female kind of love interest, she looks just like Bridget Nielsen. It was hilarious. Loved the game. Really fun, good download. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. So, if I was rating it, like, really quickly, I'd probably give it a great. I'd give it a great. So, once again, short game. You collect old VHS tapes in it. So, the game takes place in 2007. But it's like a 1980s version of 2007. Yeah. Oh, best line. If y'all remember the old arcade games would always have this screen that was blue that would flash up, and it would say, "Winners don't use drugs." It was like this public service announcement. There's a part early in the game where they're trying to get Rex Power Cult to use this technology, this inject the substance into him that'll make him as powerful as the villain, who is a complete homage to Bennett from Commando. And they go, "You need to use it, Rex." He goes, "No, they always told me winners don't use drugs." I mean, it's just so great. So many awesome references. So I absolutely loved the game, and I know Tracy and Gina and Kristen all had watched me play it from time to time.
I had a friend tell me, actually within the same week,
yeah,
as you've been playing it, he texted me, he's like, "You need to get this game, it's so good."
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Pretty fun first-person shooter. So, all right, well, I think everybody's checked something out this week, or multiple things. Let's go on and talk about a couple news items. We won't spend too long, because I know the bulk of our conversation is going to be on Arrested Development. So, Kristen, you got a little bit of news there. Why don't you share it for us?
I do have a little bit of news. Actually, mine might go after yours.
Yours might go after mine.
So why don't you start?
Well, my biggest news story that I know of this week is that the BBC has officially announced that Matt Smith will no longer be the Doctor after the Christmas special, after the 2013 Christmas special, which means that after this season, Tracy's making crying motions, because Matt Smith was the 11th Doctor, and fantastic Doctor. I mean, Doctor. David Tennant is a lot of people's... Tom Baker seems to be most people who are classic Who fans, their favorite Doctor, but there are many people who are like classic Who fans, new Who fans, really liked David Tennant. Matt Smith did something different with the role. He was just brought a really unique, interesting energy.
Just as good.
Really enjoyed Matt Smith. He's going to be in the 50th anniversary special, which has David Tennant returning. So and hopefully Billy Piper, who was Rose, and so Rose Tyler from the 9th and 10th Doctors. And so we're hoping some more people show up as well. They haven't announced anything, but it'd be great if some of the older Doctors showed up, because there still are quite a few of them alive. I would love to see Paul McGann, who was the 8th Doctor. Yeah. Only ever had one movie that he was in. Did a lot of audio plays.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic Doctor. He was completely robbed of the role because Fox did not want to option a pilot, or did not want to option a TV series based off of the TV movie that was made. So anyways, Matt Smith will be... We know he'll be regenerating into a new Doctor. They haven't said who it is yet. From BBC's press release, they don't even know who it is yet. So the Doctor hasn't been found. So it could be anybody. And it may be next fall before we have any new Who after the 50th and the Christmas special. Who knows? So.
Well, good news is you got 50 years worth of back episodes.
Yeah, exactly. You got plenty to watch. Okay.
Can the Doctor only regenerate as a male? Does he have to be male?
There have been female Time Lords, so it seems like there's still a male and female. Just like he wouldn't be another species, as far as I know.
Gotcha.
Gina, are you a feminist?
Yes.
Once again, there are female.
To say she was a feminist.
I said that.
I know.
There are female Time Lords though, so this story has always been about a male Time Lord.
Gotcha.
There was a really weird rumor years ago that oh gosh, who did Michael Douglas marry? Catherine Zeta-Jones was. It was just one of these weird rumors that got moving around, and people were like, "She's going to be the next Doctor." What? Where did that come from? So, but I mean, once again, it's the same thing. Like, will the Doctor usually always be from the UK? Yeah, because it's the UK show, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but so we'll see. Who knows who the new Doctor could be? I have my personal choices would be one. I think Hugh Laurie would be a great Doctor, Dr. House, the Doctor, Doctor
Yes.
Who. Number 2, Benedict Cumberbatch would be an
Yeah.
absolutely
He would be.
fantastic Doctor, and a third one would be Simon Pegg. But I think he's kind of already said he's not interested.
He's holding out for Star Wars. J.J. Abrams. He's
Yeah.
begging to be some kind of
Okay.
part in Star Wars, whether it's a
and he would
droid
have
or
my
something.
vote. He would have my vote. So.
Okay.
I'm still holding out hope for Paul Rudd. I don't know if it'll happen.
It'd be
I'm
interesting to
just
see
kidding.
who all
I'm
shows
just
up.
joking.
Right.
in Star
Paul
Wars.
Rudd is Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh,
Are
Paul
you
Rudd is
kidding
Doctor. I
me?
thought you were holding up that he would be in Star Wars.
No,
No.
Paul Rudd. You know Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Okay.
So, all right.
Kristen,
So,
what was your news that
so
paralleled this?
My news is that yes, no, there have been no announcements of any kind. But there have been names thrown around a lot, and one
Okay.
of the names that has come up a lot is Sir Ian McKellen.
Really?
That would be
Yes,
interesting.
really, that would be interesting. I was kind of interested on everybody's thoughts on that, honestly.
As long as he can keep playing Magneto too, I'm fine with it.
I can't see him as anything but Magneto.
You
Oh,
should
I-
see him as
I
Yeah,
can
see,
see
I'm
so
an
many
Gandalf.
things. I could
Yeah,
see
See,
him
you're
as
not-
an
Gandalf.
Ernest.
yeah, I was like Magneto, but then also like, wait a minute, I can see him as Gandalf, and then I see him as this. I'm like, actually, I can see him as a ton of things because
I
he's a
know,
great
exactly.
actor who
He's a
blends
great-
in everything.
exact-
Well, I've
Exactly.
been watching all of the X-Men, so right now,
So
all
right now
all
that's
I
what's
see is
in my head,
Magneto.
And he's filming Days of Future Past. That's
Yeah,
gonna be
they're filming that
interesting
right
to
now.
see Michael Fassbender and
Yeah,
Ian
so
McKellen.
very
One thing
interesting.
that Chris and I have talked about is that it would be interesting for them to go to an older Doctor, because originally the Doctor was very old and had a granddaughter with him,
Mhm.
and over time the Doctor got
Younger.
younger and younger and younger, and Matt Smith is the youngest Doctor that they've
He
ever
was,
had.
27
I think he was 27 when he started,
very
and that was
young.
like 2000 and let me think, 2009.
Nine.
2009, I think,
Nine.
was when the 5th series
he
started.
followed David Tennant.
He
right?
followed David Tennant. So it'll be interesting to, once again, I hope they don't go much younger, because there does have to be somewhat of a
Needs a wisdom to
to the Doctor. But Matt Smith pulled it off well,
Well,
being
he
27.
pulled off an old man and a young with a child's
Yeah.
wonder.
Yeah,
Very, an old man's wisdom with a child's wonder.
Very much so.
Very
Kind
well.
of like the residents of Sudden Valley.
Yeah, sure.
Ooh,
Let's
good in
snap.
joke. Good in joke.
If there's nothing else, good in joke, Jerry.
Yeah.
I did want to mention that my thoughts on it were that I think he would be a fantastic Doctor. I could absolutely see him doing it. My only thought on it is that every Doctor, most Doctors, as far as I know, every Doctor, this has been kind of a startup role for them. It's nice to have a Doctor that you don't know anything about, that you don't know what to expect.
Well, all of the older Doctors were often very established.
Okay, well, the
actors.
newer ones.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I'm much more familiar with the newer Doctors than the older. But so I really like having someone new coming in where you don't know anything about them and
Yeah.
they can just blow you away.
That's
you
true.
know, and actually, Neil Gaiman wrote a blog about that. He had heard that Ian McKellen may end up, he had heard the name thrown around, and he actually wrote a blog talking about why he should not be the next Doctor.
Well, one thing that jumps to my mind, and I mean this is no offense, because Sir Ian McKellen seems to be in excellent shape.
Oh yeah.
From everything you find, he's still making movies, he's doing
Yeah.
really well.
He's
But
the master of magnetism.
Everybody
for
has
God's sakes.
talked about that Doctor Who always has been a very grueling schedule since 2005.
Yes, that's why a lot of people have only done it for a couple of
Yeah,
years.
and that's why some of those episodes in the Tennant years, you had episodes that hardly had the Doctor in it.
So we can have a
Blink
break.
is one of those episodes.
Yes.
Probably one of the best Tennant episodes that Tennant's so rarely in.
Yes.
But it was done to give him time off, because all the scenes could be basically filmed with him, sitting and recording that video. The same with Love and Monsters, which a lot of people, that's their absolute least favorite Doctor Who episode in the history of Doctor Who. Tracy's shaking her head, so... but anyway, I mean, she's shaking her head. Yes, she agrees that it's the least favorite. So, anyways, lots of Doctor Who news coming on. Brad's got something.
I wanted to take this, because I know we're about to transition out of Epic News. I don't know where this would fit in. It's not news, and it's not what we've been checking out. It's kind of a recommendation and something I wanted to recommend and kind of get Gina's opinion on.
Okay.
And I'm recommending something that I've never read. So, Marvel has a new X-Men series that came out this week. And I say X-Men series, but it's a completely female team. For the very first time, a completely female superhero team. So we have Kitty Pryde, we have Rogue, we have Storm. I believe Emma Frost is on there. I'm not 100%. I hadn't read it. It's written by Brian Wood, but the thing has gotten on Newsarama, Comic Book Resources.
CNN.com's been covering it all week.
Big coverage and kind of unanimous 5-star reviews. It's supposed to be one of the best, #1 X-Men issues in years. So I was going to try.
Is it a series or
it's
is it
a series that's starting. And #1 just came out, so I was going to tell you you should get it at HeroCon. It'll only be like $4. But what do you think about that, Gina? I know you're a resident feminist. I wanted to get your take on it.
She's not the only one.
That's exciting to me because predominantly throughout our history we've seen heroes as males. Now we do have some really classic female characters, like your Wonder Woman, Batgirl, those kind of characters. But I think that says, now I will have to read it to see what kind of messages they're sending through the characters.
Yeah.
And how the characters are interacted with, and
from the cover, they're not overtly sexualized either.
Not overly
from the way that
that's nice.
A lot of them are in comic books.
Yeah.
But males are objectified too. I was listening to another podcast. And it was Slash Film was doing their Star Trek in the Darkness review. I listened to it after I listened to our review of it. And they were talking about the scene they put in the trailer of Alice Eve, where, that they just shot that scene so it could be in the trailer. And they asked a very prominent film critic on there, Joanna Robinson from Pajaba.com. They asked her, what'd you think about that? Was it objectifying? She said, you know what? In the past, if you would have asked me this question 6 or 7 years ago, I'd have a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, honestly, you go through, you look at the Marvel movies, you look at the even some of the Batman movies. I mean, there's Christian Bale's taking his shirt off.
Yeah.
Kirk spent half of the original series with his shirt off.
Yes.
Half.
I mean, so objectification works both ways, but in comic books, kind of objectification of women is kind of different than it is in film. I mean, it's unrealistic proportions, and I guess any guy nerd would be lying to you if they said they didn't enjoy it a little bit. But I mean, I think it's interesting. It's X-Men, so think about how far you've come from this book that was, it was kind of this metaphor for all the minorities in society and stuff, the civil rights movement. And now it's 2013, and it may have come too late, but it's still interesting to see that Marvel say, hey, we're going to take X-Men, one of our biggest flagship titles. Of course, there's still Uncanny and all new X-Men, but we're going to take just the X-Men title, and it's going to be an all-female team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the fact that they're doing it is good, but the fact that they're doing it and people are loving it is interesting. So I'm going to try to pick up the first issue at HeroCon, and hopefully we can all read it and talk about it next week.
I mean, there's been some great, Birds of Prey has been a pretty strong all-female title for DC for a while.
And Birds of Prey is a big title for DC.
Birds of Prey has been pretty decent.
When you hear X-Men,
that's
it's on the level of your Spider-Man, your Batman,
Justice League.
I mean, it's When you think of superhero teams, you think of Avengers, Justice League, and the X-Men.
Yeah,
Yep.
you do.
That's the three I think of off the top of my head. There are many more. Teen Titans.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of them, but I don't know. It's an interesting concept, so check it out.
Well, I wanted to throw out 2 more things. One, we've got our tweet of the week here that Arathalia, which is also Kristen, has been keeping track of because I call her different things at different times.
Yeah, it's all good, Jerry.
As long as I just call her.
Oh, snap. Yeah, anyway.
We just got done talking about.
But isn't that a thing where you say, you can call me whatever you want, as long as you call me?
Okay.
Everybody says that.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anybody
so
can.
the tweet of the week this week comes from /Film. They tweeted earlier today, Benicio del Toro's Guardians of the Galaxy role revealed with a link. And the link talks about...
And spoilers if you don't want to know it.
Yeah, spoiler if you
Who
don't
he
want to know
plays?
who
Yeah.
he plays.
Oh.
Some people
But,
don't. I want to know.
They have a, quote,
Oh, I saw
very
this.
reliable source from...
The epic review.
comic book movie.
Comic book
stating-
movies pretty good usually.
Yeah, exactly. Stating that Del Toro will be playing the part of Tannelir Teven, aka the Collector.
Okay.
So, if you were wanting to know, I know that a few days ago they it was released that he was going to be in the movie, but they weren't saying who. So, if you were curious who he's playing, it looks like he will be playing the Collector.
And some people had said that he would be playing Thanos.
A lot of
and-
people thought Thanos, yeah.
But, I mean, I'm honestly, at this point, from everything that Joss Whedon has said, I honestly don't expect to see the Avengers face Thanos until Avengers 3.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It
Avengers
sounds
3.
like he's going to be in the second, but not... Or at least mentioned or something.
Yeah, but he's
but
going to
he's
be
gonna
the
the
big
villain
thing
of
that
the
they...
third one, yes.
Exactly.
He's
Yeah,
so.
actually
they're not
gonna
gonna face
he's
off
actually
yet.
gonna be a drunk British actor the whole time.
No. Think about it. You have to wait.
They've already played that card once. They
Yeah.
better not pull it again.
You have to wait from 2012 to probably
Yeah.
2018
Yeah.
to see the Thanos payoff. That's crazy.
Thanos is actually Gene Parmesan.
Ah, you got me again!
All right. Well, let me just throw 2 shouts out this week. One, check out the Epic Review. We did a great interview with Matthew Rodriguez and Andrew Kramer, who've been working on a really cool new comic book and universe project that's called Defenders of Eden, influenced by all kinds of things. X-Men, like we talked about. Huge influence from Masters of the Universe, Thundercats, and other great things. They're doing their Kickstarter project. It's got about 22 days left, and the goal is to help get published issue number 1 of Defenders of Eden. It looks awesome. I've already kicked in, to get my copy of Defenders of Eden and help these guys out. But check it out. Check out all their beautiful artwork. They've got some great artwork on there, and with some of their Kickstarter levels, you can actually get commissioned artwork. And some of their art has appeared in a number of comic books and things like that. So definitely check it out. Second, BattleGrip.com is doing their Week of the Batman. By the time you listen to this podcast, it'll probably be wrapping up Friday. But you can go over there. Phil Reed's been putting stuff up all week about Batman, different Batman reviews, vintage Batman commercials, and actually featured our review of the Mattel's Planet X Batman, which is actually based off of the Zurin R Batman from Grant Morrison's Batman Rest in
Good
Peace.
old Grant Morrison.
Yeah, Grant Morrison. So, but check it out, The Week of the Batman and Defenders of Eden. So, all right, well, let's move into our featured review of the week, which is our conversation that's going to be crazy about Arrested Development Season 4.
Now the story of a wealthy family who lost everything and the one son who had no choice but to keep them all together.
All right, well, as we start talking about Arrested Development Season 4 and getting into our impressions, everyone will share just a little bit so you know where we're coming from. I have watched Arrested Development since the night it came on. I was at a friend's house, and their family was watching Malcolm in the Middle, and Arrested Development came on, and I said, well, let's watch it, because it came on right after Malcolm in the Middle, and I was hooked. Day one, absolutely loved the show. So I have been with it from the very beginning. I liked Arrested Development before liking Arrested Development was cool. That's my hipster. Hipster, yeah. So, Gina, tell us a little bit about your experience with Arrested Development.
I think it kept popping up on my Netflix queue, like recommending me to watch it about a couple of months ago, I guess. And so I started watching it because I knew like a lot of my friends watched it and liked it. So I've watched the first 2 seasons, I believe. I'm trying to think. What was the last episode I watched? Okay, so, youngest son, what's his name?
Buster.
Buster had his hand cut off and
By a loose seal.
Yeah, and had the hook, and he was dealing with being a monster.
I'm a monster! All right.
I think the last episode I watched was actually with, oh my gosh, his name totally. But Buster and Job were trying to get back into magic. Job was trying to get back into magic, but he had to be the assistant because they wouldn't allow him, the guild or whatever, wouldn't allow him to be like
the guild of magicians.
The magician. And so Buster was the magician.
The alliance of magicians.
And he had the sword of destiny or something like that. And cut off Buster's robot hand, and everybody's like, oh my gosh. And yeah,
okay.
I think that was the last episode.
So you haven't seen season 4?
No.
All right. Kristen?
I got into Arrested Development through barbecue when he and I started dating. He
That's worth marriage right there.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree.
So that's how I got into it. I really enjoyed it. Just thought it was hilarious and unbelievably clever. And so I was really excited when they greenlit the season 4. And I was, we
all were.
All right, Brad?
Well, I kind of got in just a little bit after Jerry did. In high school, I got big into Seinfeld. So I kind of got big into this layered comedy, kind of where, jokes pay off down the road. Everything's kind of more intricate, and you got to pay attention. If you watch an episode of Seinfeld 10 minutes in, you're like, what the hell's going on? Mm-hmm. And so I was, watching Fox on a Sunday night, probably watching Malcolm in the Middle or The Simpsons or something. And Arrested Development come on. And I was like, I didn't know what the heck was going on. This was during the first season, but I was like, some of this stuff is hilarious. I have to watch this show. So I waited till the first season came out on DVD, and I went to Best Buy. And this is back when buying a TV show on a DVD was a big deal.
Yeah, expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it was about $35, and I was still in high school at the time, so I liked it enough to save up money to go buy it, or ask my parents for money to go buy it. Similar
Probably
to
more
the
likely.
way every member of the Bluth family asked their parents for
I
everything.
need a favor.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I need some stimmy.
It wasn't stimmy. No,
Stimmy, that was so funny.
So I went and I bought the first season. I went through it in a weekend, and I was hooked. I was like, I love it. I'm into this humor. I watched the second and third seasons on TV, and I was devastated. You remember on the third season where they're running the screen crawls across were they asking people to donate or something? And I mean, it was joking.
Yeah.
I mean, and when Arrested Development, the day and age of, we didn't have Kickstarter, we didn't have Netflix, and nobody ever thought this was possible. Yeah. And all of you guys have Netflix. Andrew has been begging me to get Netflix forever.
It's well worth it.
I stuck with Blockbuster Online until I couldn't take it no more. But Arrested Development comes on May 26, 2013. I bought Netflix. I mean, I signed up for Netflix.
Absolutely.
I mean, even if I just keep it, I'm going to probably keep it now. I think it's worth it. But
how else are you going to watch Arrested Development Season 4?
You mean Season 5 when they make it?
Well, no, when you watch Season 4 again, because I'm going to do it. Yeah. I'm going to start watching again tomorrow.
Well, no, what I want to do is, now Jerry and I kind of had different experiences watching Season 4. And Kristen too, because Kristen and Jerry went back about a year ago and watched all first 3 seasons. Yeah. Now, Arrested Development is a smart show, even if you've seen them a couple times. I mean, that was 2003, 2004. I hadn't seen it since then. It has been years since I've seen it, so I want to go back, watch the first 3 seasons, then come back to season 4, and I will do it.
They really and truly layer their jokes.
Yes,
They will put something in. I mean, in the original 3 seasons, they would put something in season 1, and it may not pay off. You may not even get that it was a joke until 2 episodes in, 3 episodes in, the middle of the 3rd season. You're like, did they really plan that for that long?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. And they take jokes and they'll use the joke over and over, but they'll have a different character use the joke, or they'll have the joke refer to something completely different.
Yes.
And it's just hilarious. I mean, it's a hard show to explain to somebody.
And you talk about layered jokes. The layered joke is something that bothers some audiences when it's done within the context of one episode, where you have to pay attention, like an episode of Seinfeld. Like I said, you missed the first 10 minutes, you may not get the ending. A lot of people don't like smart comedy like that in one episode, much less a show where you have to watch 3 episodes to get a joke in the 5th episode.
Yeah.
So its greatest strength is also one of its greatest weakness, because it doesn't have this. The people who love it, like Jerry and Kristen and I, absolutely love it. The people who don't like it are like, WTF, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it really, a good friend of mine, he doesn't care for the show. And his reason is that a roommate would watch it on syndication. When it got put on syndication, they didn't bother putting it in order. That'd be like trying to watch something like Lost and not watch it in order.
Arrested Development's the Lost of comedy.
Yeah.
That's a great point, except they knew where they were going.
Yeah.
Well, they said they did.
Yeah.
You mean Arrested Development knew
Arrested Development knew where they were going. Yeah.
Damon Lindelof didn't know where he was going.
You read some of their stuff from the first season, and they're like, oh, you're going to see this explained. It's like, okay, that never made sense.
I still don't know why Walt's important.
Well, regardless, let's just talk about general impressions. For those of us who have seen Arrested Development Season 4, how did it compare? I mean, your initial impressions. What did you think about it, Brad?
I mean, obviously, I loved it. I don't know if I loved it. I loved the journey more than I do the end. I kind of didn't like the end. I didn't dislike the ending. I wasn't in love with it. It was just, and I'm interested to get your guys' opinion on how they set it up, because it was set up different than the first 3 seasons.
Yes, it was.
So we're watching the same events unfold through different perspectives for 15 episodes. And they're all connected and intertwined with brilliant comedy writing. But at the same time, I mean, I enjoyed it. I did, but at the same time, I can see how people can be turned off by watching, hey, we're watching the same story. But I guess if, the people who are watching it are Arrested Development fans now. Yeah. Maybe hopefully some people are discovering it new on Netflix.
Netflix has been pushing it, and so they've been pushing it. So I imagine some people are seeing it for the first time.
I know y'all are going to give y'all's initial impressions, but what did y'all think about the setup, how they set the season up like that?
Originally, I think it was supposed to be 9 or 10 episodes.
And it went to 15.
But it stretched out to 15. And if you pay attention, each episode is not the 22 minutes that the original episodes of the old seasons were.
Minutes.
Yeah, some of them are... the longest one, I think, is 37 minutes. You're talking, some of them are twice as long as your normal about almost twice as long as your typical Arrested Development.
Double check your math.
Yeah, they're about twice as long. I mean, 37 minutes is
15 minutes longer.
Okay, I mean, still it's a lot more
with
to
no
fill
commercials, just solid
in a comedy show.
And the credits last all of 30 seconds.
Yes, exactly. It was an interesting setup, and some people have said you could start watching this show from any episode, and it would... The original intention was there would be 10 episodes that you could start watching from anywhere, other than obviously the last one. But there was going to be 10 episodes, 9 of, I think one for each of the main characters. Anyways, you do need to start watching it from episode 1 and
Yes.
go through. But I liked it because you're trying to figure out what's happening. It's almost like a mystery.
Yes.
I mean, you're piecing things together, and once again, you'll see one character, like with Michael, the first episode, he walks in and the ostrich runs across the room of the family's house, and you're like, what?
The heck?
And then as you keep going, it makes more and more sense, and little things that people were doing make sense in the context of what was going on, and it made little elements funny. I mean, just things that wouldn't even have been funny in any other show, or if it had been done linear, it made them funny.
Now, I have a question.
Yes.
For a person who's never seen Arrested Development, or even like for myself who's only seen the first 2 seasons, could they pick it up season 4 and be okay? Understand that, or
No.
is there storyline in 3 and 4 that you
it's
need to
very
know?
story heavy. It is
Yes,
the
it
most
is.
story heavy season of all of them because you're not being spoon fed like little information. I mean, there are some flashbacks there which are used for comedic effect, and also to help you remember small details. But
like the
overall,
stuff on the boat where they're fleeing.
yeah. Overall,
Was that at the end of season 3?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
That's what I thought.
So.
One thing that I thought what I really liked is just as far as we're talking about kind of the construct of the show was how they, instead of saying, hey, here's these characters in 2013, they go through and show you what these characters, like, you have scenes that are now taking place in the present, and then they goes through and show you what these characters have been doing.
Yes.
And they show you that as they experience stuff like the housing market collapsing and the financial crisis and
the stimulus.
Yes, it's so fascinating to see. So in a way, yes, it's a 4th season, but it almost feels like you get an extra season in there bridging the gap.
Yeah, multiple seasons combined.
Yeah.
I've said about the other seasons, and I think with this one definitely, if you are trying to find a pop culture artifact, a comedy or television show that was the perfect example of, kind of what life was like from 2003 until now.
Well, no, when did it go off? 2006?
6.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you were looking...
Oh, you're talking about the whole show.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me.
I think that one, if you were really trying to just, like, someday in the future, if you were trying to have someone learn about, the history of that period in a comedic way. I mean, the same way somebody would learn about history through Happy Days,
Yes.
I think Arrested Development would be that one, because, I mean, think about all the stuff they cover. I mean, they cover all of the military prison scandals. They cover everything that happened with Iraq. They cover all of these elements of the history of that period. And now with season 4, they've covered the financial crisis, the collapse of the housing market. They cover the stimulus. I love that the family uses stimmy as kind of their, instead of borrowing money, hey, can you give me a stimmy? I need some of that stimmy.
And the Bluth family has made their money, their fortune off of real estate.
Yeah.
So
so it was very interesting to see that truly affect them, because who would have thought that would have been an issue when we were watching it in 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006. Who would have thought that would have been an issue?
The joke pokes fun. I don't want to say pokes fun, but you have all these different, I don't want to say stereotypes or subsets of people like the Hispanic community.
Sure.
The gay community. I mean, they're all representative, and just because they're not necessarily always the butt of the joke, they're woven into the comedy with smart writing.
I think at the end of the day, the Bluths are always the butt of the joke.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Like the Bluths, I mean, this is the first episode, but the whole thing is the Bluths are, I mean, really a lot of times things they say are very racist. And they create Cinco de Cuatro to try to use up all of the Cinco de Mayo Cinco de Cuatro is about destroying piñatas and maracas and everything that would be hiring all the mariachi bands out so that the Hispanic community does not have enough for Cinco de Mayo.
So that they don't take the day off and can still work.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it ends up becoming like a 2-day festival or something. I mean, just...
You have... It's
ridiculous.
an interesting show when you think that it's this comedy that provides also this political commentary and societal commentary. But at the same time, it's this wealthy white California family poking fun at these minorities. And it sounds like if you're explaining it to someone, you're like, that sounds awful. Who would watch it? But people love it. They eat it up. And not because that they're making fun of those groups of people or those concepts or ideals. It's just the Blues are such a effed up family. You know, that like you said, they're the butt of the joke. And so, Kristen, what'd you think about it?
I really enjoyed it. I do wish that, I enjoyed the setup. The change up was interesting, and it was very funny how you had every person's perspective on what was going on, and you saw things unfold from other people's point of view, little by little, gaining the knowledge of what was really going on in different circumstances and stuff. I really did miss seeing the whole family together and interacting a lot. One of my absolute favorite things from the show in general was all the different chicken things. Everyone...
Which you didn't see everybody's together until one point.
Yes, and that's one of my absolute favorite things was when everyone is in the same room doing their different chicken calls together. That is just one of the funniest things in the world.
Because nobody makes a chicken.
Because no one's actually doing a
But
real
we hear
chicken
George
thing.
Michael's, because we never heard George Michael's
hear
chicken
that.
impression before. And the fact that the family, nobody ever does anything that sounds like a chicken. As Michael says, has anyone in this family ever seen a chicken before?
Exactly. So I did miss a lot of, seeing more of the family interacting all together as a whole.
Yeah.
Or, interacting very poorly as a whole.
Because of the way they shot the episodes, you don't see as much interaction with the main cast.
And it allowed them to shoot where they didn't have to have everybody together
I'm
to
sure
film,
that was
so
the
it
whole
was
point.
convenient for
I'm
them.
Sure that was the whole
because
point.
think about these people. But Michael Cera's pretty big.
Yeah.
Jason Bateman's been in a bunch of feature
Oh,
films.
I imagine all of these
I'm sure
folks
that the
probably
whole
are
purpose
working.
Will
on...
Arnett's filming Ninja Turtles right
Yeah,
now.
I think
Exactly.
all these folks are probably have pretty crazy schedules.
Exactly.
Now let's hope that with season 4 does well enough that season 5 they go ahead and say, okay, let's go into this whole hog and do it, because I really get the idea this was done the way it had to be done to prove that
and
it
they
works.
held it very, very
Let's
well.
hope it's a successful litmus test to say, we want the Blues back together, all together.
As I watched season 4, at first I didn't know what to think. I liked it.
It was a weird feeling.
It was a weird feeling at first, and I'm like, man, there's not as many of the characters. But then once you get to about episode 3, everything starts falling in place, and you start seeing new characters and old characters return. And by the end of it, I was like, this season is as good as any of the others. Truly the amount of jokes and the way they take old jokes and make them new again. And they bring in some great new characters, and they go places they've never gone. And they even make really funny jokes, like characters that have never interacted meeting through the first 3 seasons. And, the whole fact that George Michael and Lucille, too, have never met. And even though she lives across the hall from the grandparents.
And dated 2 of the...
Yeah, dated pretty much everybody, yeah. So
I want to ask, favorite storylines. Which member of the Bluth family was your favorite?
I am always a fan of Dr. Tobias Funke.
That was mine, too.
David Cross just cracks me up. And not just his character, but I love the way that he interacts with other characters. The way he interacts with any of the other characters is just always so funny. I really liked his. I actually really liked Maybe's storyline. And
that was good, too.
And
none of them were bad. They were all really well
and
written.
Lucille Bluth, I mean, she just steals everything she's in. So she's so funny. Jessica Walter was hilarious in this. Had some fantastic lines.
What about you, Kristen? Which of the Bluth family was your favorite storyline?
I think I really enjoyed. Well, I'm stuck between Job's and George Michael's. I thought that both of them were just
Job's
so
was
funny.
hilarious.
Job's was very
with
very
Tony
funny.
Wonder making a reappearance.
Yeah.
Ben Stiller.
His whole thing with Tony Wonder. But George Michael's was just, him just trying to make trying to make a point, to his dad that, hey, I need some privacy, and it turning into this whole big thing, this whole software company that everyone is buying stock in, and it's so funny that it just escalates that quickly.
He becomes a true Bluth in this season. Let's just say
Yes,
that.
he does.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
Does plenty of things that any Bluth would do to another.
Yes.
So I think Jerry and I are in agreement to get the kind of to move forward to get into the specifics of these great character storylines. Can we roll the reel forward?
Let's roll that beautiful spoiler footage.
So I want to get into one of my detailed plot lines that I enjoyed. So we're in spoilers now. We can talk about it. I love the whole stuff.
The real sound that we just played.
Yes. The Tobias stuff where he's putting on the Fantastic Four musical. And he meets the original Sue Storm from the terrible movie that they really did that. I don't know if it was specifically imagined. I think it was Fox. No, Ron Howard, I don't know if he did it in real life. I don't think he did. But in the 80s, Fox did a terrible Fantastic Four movie just to keep the movie rights.
Yeah.
So Tobias, who thinks he's going to a Method 1 acting clinic and is actually a methadone clinic, meets the original Sue Storm, who's this big druggie now. And who actually, I believe she had went to law school, but now she's like a methadone addict. So,
she'd go
Debris Bardot.
Debris Bardot. And she was really Sue Storm, right? She was Sue Storm in that movie. I'm like 90% sure.
She would have been like...
Jerry's looking that up on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But anyway, while Jerry
her first movie appearance was in 2000.
Okay, so
if that movie came out in 1990, she would have been pretty
young.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe she wasn't, but the point's still there. That she's no Jessica Alba, but she's this like original Sue Storm in this terrible Fantastic Four movie. And anybody who knows geek culture, knows comics, Marvel stuff, knows about that movie, even if they haven't seen it. And how they wove that in. And Tobias gets continually served subpoenas by Marvel, by Stan Lee.
Cease and desist orders.
Oh, yeah, okay, it wasn't subpoena, it was cease and desist orders. From Marvel, from Stan Lee, you name it, anybody that ever had anything to do with the Fantastic Four, and he just keeps on trucking, and eventually gets to him getting his rocks on into To Catch a Predator.
Oh my God.
Talk about that, Jerry. Talk about that.
Well, Tobias has always been the person who says very, not intending to, but he says very questionable things. Pretty sure he's obviously, yes, the master of saying questionable things, and Tobias's sexuality has always been questioned. And so he's...
What's that little musical number he does?
He decides
to... fallacy.
Yeah.
He decides to dress up...
It's from nothing.
It's from nothing. He decides to dress up as the Thing, and he goes around with Debris, who's dressed like the Invisible Woman. And he ends up coming back to visit Maybe, but dressed like the Thing. But when he shows up at the house, there's a group from
she like rented it out to him.
Yeah, to a group that's kind of like To Catch a Predator.
Yeah.
But Tobias is coming to see his daughter, who's 19.
Right.
But when they start asking him questions, he has no idea what's going on. And they say, "So who are you coming to see?" And he goes, "My daughter, Maybe," because her name's Maybe.
My daughter.
My daughter. maybe. And they're like, your daughter, maybe. And he goes, yeah. And they go, how old is she? And he goes, well, he crosses his fingers. He says, I'm going to say 19 because they've established that Tobias and, Lindsay are terrible parents who do not even know their daughter's age. And he goes, but I like to think of her as 15. And
when he walks into the house, he's like, Daddy's here to get his rocks on. And he's
rocks
dressed
off,
as
because
the-
he's
Rocks
dressed like
off,
the
rocks
thing.
off.
And he's
gotta
trying to
get
get
the
his
outfit
costume
off.
on.
I mean, I'm dying. Like, Arrested
Uh-huh.
Development has a lot of witty writing where you chuckle or you
Yeah.
laugh in your head. But I'm like dying, laughing out loud this scene.
Oh my gosh. And so then the sex offender team shows up and starts interviewing him, and they're like, would you like to leave? You're free to leave. He's like, no, I'll stay and wait for her. And they're like, this has never happened before.
Because that's when the cops can get you on
Yeah.
those shows like Chris Hansen when he hosted To Catch a Predator,
Yeah.
which this is what this is supposed
But
to
then it ends up that Tobias ends up getting convicted, or they don't explain, because obviously he ends up getting listed as a sex offender.
be. So, of course, he from that point on, every time in the show, so he's going around. Michael introduces him to Ron Howard. He has to say, I'm Tobias Fouquet. By the way, I'm a sex offender. He has to
tell
say it to
everybody.
everybody.
What's really funny is if you look,
And
because
it's such an awful thing,
to-
but...
for his court-appointed work release, he's creating a Fantastic Four musical at a rehab clinic. And he's getting all these, folks who are in rehab to take part in it. And if you look at this script that he writes, it's the Fantastic Four by Dr. Tobias Funke, MD, SO. Sex offender. Look at it. You can see it on the script. So, one of my favorite things about this, this season was just some of the reappearances. My favorite reappearance of something was the Mr. F. That at the end of season 3, they were doing very much a British spy, parody. They kept singing this, this Mr. F. And it was because...
Wait, how's that again?
Mr. F. So there was a character who everyone thought was Mr. F, that lived in Wee Britain, but it turned out it was about Charlize Theron's character Rita, who was a mentally retarded female, is what Mr. F stood for. But Michael was trying to investigate who Mr. F was. Lucille Austero's brother, who's played by Tommy Toon, what's his name? Cardo Austero, isn't it? I
can't remember.
I might be wrong about that. Anyways, he's a lover of musicals. Him and Tobias are like kindred spirits. And Tobias finds out that he wants to play Mr. Fantastic, which leads to hearing Mr. F, because Mr. Fantastic.
Yes.
So it was just a clever way to work in something from season 3 back into the new season in a different way.
And speaking of working things in, everybody that you have seen, this minor characters are here. Gene Parmesan's here, played by Martin Mull.
Yeah.
Martin Mull.
And then you have, Fonzie's here. He's here. He's their lawyer.
Henry Winkler is Barry Zuckerkorn, and I think it's his son, or his son or a grandson plays. Plays young Barry Zuckerkorn in flashbacks.
Speaking of that, I absolutely love the young George Sr. and Lucille when it was Kristen Wiig and Seth Rogen.
I thought Seth Rogen was okay, but she
was awesome.
Kristen Wiig nailed nailed being young Lucille Bluth. But yeah, I mean they even had Scott Baio return as Bob Loblaw.
Oh, so awesome.
John Beard was back. Stan Sitwell.
Sally was there.
Yeah, Sally Sitwell was back.
Stiller's real.
Yeah.
Life.
Kitty Sanchez was back. Who, if you didn't realize, Kitty Sanchez is the visiting scientist in The Big Bang Theory.
Yep,
Judy Greer.
She's also the mean girl in 13 Going on 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
People are still questioning whether Lindsay, Portia, is whether she was back. They didn't know if that was her or not. But,
come on, she looks a little different.
No, that was seriously. We gotta bring it up. Her. That was one of the biggest criticisms. A lot of people were pissed. I mean, I don't know how you can be pissed about somebody having plastic surgery in real life. But, I mean, a lot of people were like, oh my God, like it dominated a lot of the interweb discussion. Instead of talking about this great season 4, they were talking about her plastic surgery. And they reference it in the show.
They even do reference it in the show.
They do.
I mean,
So-
what did you guys think about? I mean, was it...
It didn't bother me
Didn't
at all.
bother me
I
at all.
honestly only really thought about it after I saw some people online talk about it. And
I brought it up to Jerry. I just wanted to
Yeah.
see. I thought she looked different. And I was like, she does look different.
A little bit.
She looks
And
different.
it's not as like...
But she's still acting and speaking exactly
Yeah.
She's
the
Lindsay.
same.
She
does,
she's
you know.
obviously
And
Lindsay.
it's
And-
believable that Lindsay would have plastic
sure, and it's
surgery.
been 7 years,
yeah,
too.
and they comment on that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's been
Yeah.
7 years since the season
It's
3.
not like Megan
Yeah.
Fox plastic surgery. Gina, do you know, you may recall, there was a TV show, it was like a network sitcom Megan Fox was on when she was younger. I cannot remember the name of it. But if you go and look at pictures of Megan Fox on that and pictures of Megan, it looks like a different person. I mean, it wasn't that extreme,
Yeah.
but anyway, go ahead,
Well,
Jerry.
I'm going to say one of my favorite returning characters this season was Andy Richter
Oh,
as
yes.
the Richter quintuplets.
Yes.
I'm not
that's
Donnie
hilarious.
Richter. I'm Rocky Richter. Andy Richter cracks me up. I just love his quintuplet characters.
And that was such a I love the concept of that because he was on that show on Fox, Quintuplets, that
Yeah,
fell
yeah.
miserably.
Rocky Richter Wang.
And then they made him quintuplets on Arrested Development. Had me die, and how the one's face is blurred out the entire time.
Yeah, yeah.
That was great.
Is it Emmett Richter that blurs himself
I
out?
think so. I can't remember.
I think
all
Emmett,
their
because
names.
Emmett's in rehab and they keep
Hey.
him blurred out. And he played in he's the original, I'm trying to think, in the Fantastic Four musical, wasn't he like the Human Torch or something?
I think so.
Yeah.
And Conan's on here.
Yeah, Conan O'Brien.
cameo. There's a lot of good cameos.
There's some good new characters, too. I really liked Isla Fisher's Rebel Alley.
She was hilarious.
She was very funny, worked really well into the season.
Oh my God! How about what's the guy's name? Who he was playing? He is basically Herman Cain, the politician.
Oh, Terry Crews as
Yeah,
Herbert
Terry
Love.
Crews.
Yes, he was
Oh
very
my
funny.
goodness.
I mean,
so-
he was running for a House seat, okay?
Yeah.
But everything he said was so reminiscent of Herman Cain.
Yeah.
You
very
know, let's
much.
put up the wall, all that stuff.
Didn't he even reference pizza at one point because Herman Cain was the CEO of Godfather's Pizza.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure he referenced pizza once, but I liked how he called everything American. These American scallops. It just was
And
so.
Herman
We're
Cain
going to
did
the
that.
American
and,
Ocean.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah. Take my family to see the American Ocean.
And just like Herman Cain's short-lived presidential campaign, his House campaign was undone by an affair. So
Yep.
that was very
It
interesting.
was pretty funny. Heartfire, George Bluth's
Yes.
friend that, she's actually Oscar's
Doesn't
friend
speak.
who doesn't speak, but she's telepathic,
yeah.
and we just see her words on the screen.
She's Chloe on 24.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, that was funny.
But
that
one,
was early on.
one of the most interesting characters. Now, technically, he's been around since season 1. Ron Howard is the narrator, has always narrated, but Ron Howard played himself very briefly in the last episode of season 3. He played Ron Howard. He has a pretty expanded role here.
Yes, he
and
does.
It was really funny.
It was hilarious. He made himself a bit of a jerk, and
Yeah.
it was just really, really, really funny.
It was hard to see Ron Howard as a jerk. 'cause
I know, but it was
everybody
hilarious.
knows
Oh.
him as Opie, or they know him as Richie on Happy Days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was really funny the fact that he, like, in his office, he had the Apollo 13 Moonlander, the real one.
that was so.
Yeah.
And they went up and met in there. And
You
stuff.
know what I
Yeah.
liked when Henry Winkler told him to go F. He's like, go F yourself.
Yeah.
Tell Ron Howard I told him go F yourself. And it's like Fonzie's saying a big F you to
Yeah.
Richie. And I was like,
That's
I mean,
hilarious.
I watch Happy Days on Nick at Night.
Yeah.
I've seen every
That's
episode of Happy
multiple
Days.
times, yeah.
I mean, I love it.
Really, really funny.
But just that, all the stuff with Michael's storyline was good. Just how, I mean, all the stuff with Ron Howard playing back and forth. The fact that they're making this movie on the Bluth family, and it's just like, no matter how much Michael wants to get it done, he can't get it done, and then when maybe you should make it a TV show, and it almost kind of mirrors how like everybody wanted a season 4 of Arrested Development, beg for it.
Yeah.
A lot of people were for it. It finally got done.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because at the end of season 3, Ron Howard told maybe this would work better as a movie.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, maybe it should be a TV show instead. Well, 2 characters I want to talk about. One character who did not show back up, and I'm incredibly disappointed about, Franklin Bluth. Franklin Bluth did not show back up.
Mm-hmm.
That's Job's puppet. That everybody treats like a real person. His terrible ventriloquist puppet that you always see him move. I was looking for Franklin to show up the whole season, especially when Buster got a hold of Franklin at the end of season 3. I love Franklin Bluth, and he didn't show up, and I was sad. The Cornballer made an appearance.
Yes, that was
I
hilarious.
was commenting because that was always one of my favorite running gags was the Cornballer and the fact that they were talking about how dangerous it was. And he's like, listen to the ticking. It sounds like a clock. Doesn't have numbers on it, George. Who would use a clock without numbers? Babies, they can't read.
And this is when Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen and Kristen Wiig is playing them. The fortune builder.
And he touches it on the side like they always do. It's like bleep 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 bleep, and it was like it was
This
so.
should be in everybody's crib.
And then George Michael makes a reference to what's he say? I forgot what he calls it. He's like
TikTok.
Is it TikTok?
Or the TikTok or the Talk?
No, but what's the thing they call? Is that what it's called? They put it in the baby crib.
Yeah, they're supposed to teach them good rhythm, and that's why George Michael has such
Perfect
good,
rhythm.
perfect rhythm.
But George
Michael
references it, and he thinks it's like this giant thing that everybody had.
Everybody.
Like, is that not a thing?
Yeah,
you remember that?
The TikTok, and no one else knows what he's talking about.
So let's talk about Fake Block.
Okay, let's talk about Fake Block.
So that was George Michael's big storyline. He's playing. It's George Michael's storyline. He starts out playing wood block in a band, and he's like, "Let's come up with an app where we can, have wood block,
electronic wood block, because they said they couldn't hear him over the band."
Yeah,
and he was like, "There's really no way to make the wood block louder." And he's like, "We could remix it later." And he goes, "I wish someone would make an electronic wood block."
So he and his friend go online, and it turns out there's like 2 apps, 2 or 3 apps.
Yeah.
P-Hound. And they look at them, and they're like, "These are jokes. They don't have different grains of wood. This is a joke. This is an amateur hour." So they go in, and they start doing all this stuff, and they're trying to get the domain name. And George Michael's going to put up 3,000, and P-Hound...
5,000.
Was it 5,000?
Yeah.
P-Hound puts up like $3.
99 cents times 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Download the 3
for
apps.
the 3 apps.
And then it turns into this whole thing. It's like George Michael's working on something called Fake Block. And somebody hears, and all of a sudden, as he's talking... when he was talking to Maybe about it?
Well, he was using it to get privacy from his dad originally. We find out later... But when he talks to Maybe, he goes full out and says, Fake Block.
I'm creating this big privacy software, and it's like a parallel to the Social Network.
Yeah. I kind of wondered that because there's a little bit of a similarity.
Well, when they show the depositions, it goes to a deposition.
There's a similarity between Michael Cera and Jesse Eisenberg, even a little bit.
Yeah, they are kind of that little twitchy, kind of same persona.
So,
but. I think Michael Cera would have been a good Mark Zuckerberg. I really do. I mean, that's an interesting point, Jerry. But, Maybe takes off with this thing. She, creates Fake Block offices like the freaking Facebook offices in Palo Alto. I mean...
gets investors excited and everything.
And this is when he gets how he gets Rebel Alley. Which I guess...
Who's Ron Howard's daughter in the show.
In the show, yes.
But, who's also dating Michael.
Yes, which kind of is the big...
They're the other guy. They're the hermano.
What the show kind of builds toward the ending
Who is this hermano?
Mike, there's always this other person. And that kind of gets me... We can go back... I want to talk some more about about Job and stuff.
I do too. I want to talk about Anne coming back.
But I want to. But
Who?
so.
Egg?
But what did you think about the whole George Michael? I mean, I don't want to. The Bluth family. Everybody has their favorite member. Jerry and I were talking. We were scared there wasn't going to be a Buster episode.
Yeah, it takes
a
a while. Buster's episode is not till Buster has 2 or 3 really good scenes before that, but his episode's not until I think 13 or 14.
Yeah, it's pretty
in the
late
season, but it's very funny.
But what I was gonna say, everybody has their favorite Blues, so it's hard to say like which one is is the center of this show, especially as we approach this from so many different perspectives. But the father-son relationship of Michael and George Michael is the main dynamic that makes the show go, and that ends with they're both dating the same person, and we find out. And George Michael just punches him in the face, and it goes off. I mean, what did y'all think about the ending of that story?
Well, it had some next time on Arrested Development.
Yes, it did, which was a big tease for a hopeful season 5.
I mean, it really left it with some conflict there, because I think the story has always been about Michael trying to do right by his son. I mean, I think that was always the initial intent.
Yeah, it was.
But after the first few seasons, I mean, I think things got really screwed up. I mean, Michael became a lot like his family in more ways than he probably intended. He's like as crazy as the rest of them. And so now it's really about him and George Michael establishing their place, because Michael keeps saying, man, we're like twins, we're like brothers, and
even when they shower together.
Yeah, it's like, no, you're father and son. It's a very different relationship, and
he wants so much to have that relationship that he doesn't really have with his father.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that George Sr. You get the feeling that he respects Michael more than any of his other kids, but still, it's almost like he sees him as somebody who can run the business, almost as his heir apparent.
Yeah.
Whereas he just wants to be Michael wants to be just George Michael's parent.
Yeah.
So that does drive the show, but I didn't like the ending. It just ended. It
was very abrupt.
Yeah, it was just like he punches him in the face. It's over.
But would anybody have ever expected that? I would
No.
Exactly. I think that was a huge thing. I think it shows how far George Michael has come, because I mean, remember the very first episode of the first season, he's so unsure of everything.
Yes.
What's the most important thing? Breakfast? No, family.
Oh,
well,
I thought
always covering his tracks and just, kind of quiet and standoffish about so many things, and just kind of that's not how I feel, but I'm not going to speak up enough to say anything, so I'll just go along with it. And here we're seeing him saying, no, this is not okay. I'm going to stand up to you about this.
Here's my question to y'all, though. Does that end, if that's the last episode ever of Arrested Development, does that ending work? Because I don't think it works as well as even the ending of season 3. Do you want the last scene of Arrested Development to be George Michael punching Michael?
No, and also there's that huge mystery of, did Buster kill, kill Lucille Ostero?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a huge mystery there, too.
Yeah, they left a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they really jumped into this. Either they're being very meta about TV shows that do like a huge cliffhanger ending and then never come back.
Yeah.
And so they intentionally create a conflict and mystery, or they're going in this very confidently and saying, listen, we know this is going to succeed. We know the fans are going to, make this succeed, and they're going in it from that direction. So, which I have a feeling we're going to get another season.
It would be,
sure.
the ideal, they're talking about doing one more season on Netflix and then doing a movie exclusive to Netflix.
Yeah.
Arrested Development's big enough to where I think it could hit theaters and at least have a $20 million opening weekend. Which is not much, but when you see Iron Man having $175 million,
yeah,
but still that would be. But isn't it interesting about this kind of evolution of how we view home video, that this. I mean, I know it's a cult classic, but still, this movie may be on Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna be interesting. To see
Here's
what happens.
here's what's interesting. I want to see when the show actually gets to the point where they're actually making the movie about the family and who plays the family. Because we know in the Carl Weathers story, or things that Carl Weathers filmed, Tobias played George Bluth. So,
Which he never had any legal
didn't-
right to do so.
yeah, and didn't Carl Weathers play Ice? Wasn't that part of the thing? He played Ice, right?
Yes,
The bounty hunter
the
and
bounty
caterer.
hunter.
Yeah.
And thank God they brought Carl Weathers back.
I love that Carl Weathers was in there.
Yeah.
And guess who we've got to play Carl Weathers? Carl Weathers.
Yeah.
I like that Tobias had the scene from Predator where he loses his arm in his footage of... And also, here's footage of other actors I know.
Yeah.
So we hadn't really talked in depth about Job's storyline.
Yeah.
So I mean, Job's freaking hilarious. I mean, they all are. I mean, what did y'all got? What did you think of that? What did you think of Job in this season?
I thought definitely some of the biggest laughs in Job's storyline.
He did look pretty shredded on that cross.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. The whole fact that he gets... The whole getaway part where Job gets hooked up with a boy... Like a teen idol, like
Justin Bieber.
Yeah, Justin Bieber,
Yeah.
Mark Cherry.
Yeah.
And they call him Getaway, and he's like hanging out as part of their posse at first, and then he's their limo driver. And
what's hilarious is they're like kind of making fun of or picking at Entourage.
Yeah.
And the club is Jeremy Piven's club, who plays Ari in Entourage.
Yes.
And then they're walking in kind of like Benny. I love Entourage. I don't ever see that on DVD. But they're walking in like Benny Chase and them do. And then there's Job thinks he's going to be at the front. He's at the back.
They're like, hey, why don't you go keep the limo running? You know, kind of a joke. Like you're our limo driver. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it'd be really funny.
All the stuff with
put up the privacy screen.
Him and Tony Wonder.
Yeah,
was
him and Ben Stiller were
Oh,
hilarious
my goodness.
together, with them pretending they were gay to get back to entrap each other, and the fact that Anne got worked into everything, because at the end of season 3, Job tried to seduce her, and I don't even remember the reason quite why he tried to seduce her exactly.
I can't remember. It's been.
It's just Job. He was trying to seduce her, and she
was still dating George Michael too.
She was, yeah. He ended up in this season was going to marry her, and he was performing an illusion at her wedding, which he said, you know, Jesus came out of the tomb on the third day. I'm gonna beat his record by 2 weeks,
and so when he goes into the tomb. He goes to get his key, and who was it that actually ended up Jimmy? It wasn't Tony Wonder.
It's Tony Wonder.
He thinks it's Tony Wonder. I think it's Anne, obviously.
Yeah, because it was a cross.
Because when he holds the cross up to Michael, he goes, you know, who does this stand? What does this stand for? Michael goes, Jesus. He goes, no, that'd be a J. This is a T. Tony Wonder.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't Tony Wonder use a W, though? Yeah. I mean, come on, for one thing.
So Job's line is pretty funny.
It's just good. I mean, you have people that are not main, like Seth Rogen and Ben Stiller. I know Ben Stiller. Tony Wonder was in the earlier seasons, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It's been a while, but
kind of his arch rival.
Yeah, he showed up a couple times.
I think the reason. I mean, Ben Stiller was probably bigger when Arrested Development was airing than he is now. It's kind of taken a step back a little bit. He's gotten a little older.
Well,
but
he's been doing more behind the scenes. Producing and stuff.
I mean, Tropic Thunder was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess since his wife plays Sally Sitwell, he kind of has a connection to the show. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe stuff. You love maybe stuff, didn't you, Jerry?
She was hilarious.
Oh my gosh, her whole thing about trying to stay in high school as long as she can.
Yeah.
So.
That was pretty good. She was pretty. I liked all her stuff with it. I mean, it's so weird because. Maybe and George Michael, they love each other, but they're not like.
They're attracted to each other.
Well, are they? They're not officially. They're not cousins, right? They're not officially.
Not
Lindsay's not even.
Yeah, she was adopted.
Lindsay's adopted. So.
Yeah. But they were Michael and Lindsay were raised as thinking they were twins.
Yes.
And they weren't. So yeah, exactly. But I mean, they have this.
That's what happens when you sit in on a Arrested Development podcast and haven't seen season 3, Gina. That's what happens. Your mind gets blown.
We're not doing it justice, so go back and watch it anyway. But like that dynamic of George Michael and Maybe, I mean, it's just.
Well, remember,
as
soon as Job found out that Lindsay wasn't his real sister, he started hitting on her.
Yeah.
So, remember?
Yeah.
And Maybe, I think she's hot. I do. She's got a very unique look that everybody might not find attractive, but like.
She doesn't need to go get all the plastic surgery.
No, she's got those freckles and she has that little mole, but I mean,
and
it
she's
works
very
for
confident.
her. Yeah,
she's always very confident, and she's like always like the smartest person in the room.
Or at least making
which
everyone
is the
think
opposite of her
yes,
parents.
Yes.
That reminds me of Mud's. Was it Mud's Women, Mud's Girls?
Oh, Mud's Women.
Yeah. It's all about confidence.
George Senior stuff was kind of what got everything going in motion with the wall and how he was running that sweat can. I loved it when he and his his twin brother, which is still Jeffrey Tambor. But, I mean,
what did you guys think about the? It almost seemed like those two were kind of switching roles a little bit.
Almost to the point they switched. Oh, you're talking about.
The twins.
Yeah.
The twins.
Oscar and George.
The real twins.
George was doing things Oscar would have done, and Oscar was doing things
Oscar's
George
gaining
would have done.
all this confidence, and George is starting to lose it all.
George is having like high levels. He's like losing all his testosterone and gaining
something like that.
estrogen or something because he puts on Lindsay's red wig at the end of his storyline. I don't. It'd be interesting.
It's like they're switching.
There's so many weird things to see what happens. With
where they would take that.
He is laying pipe with Lucille, as he calls it.
Yes, he is.
And you got the real one over
with both Lucille's.
Yes, with both Lucille's.
And the real George Senior's like got high estrogen levels.
Yes.
So they did flip the dynamic.
Yeah, they did. Very interesting.
But you were just on a basic level. They switched so much. I was like, okay, is this George Senior or is this Oscar?
Yeah.
It was harder to, which was intentional for the show. It was hard to keep up with them without, because usually Oscar always had the hair.
Oscar had the long hair.
Exactly.
Of course, and then we remember that George really isn't.
Yeah, we never did hear Uncle Father Oscar.
Yeah, because George, possible nephew. George really isn't Buster's dad. That Oscar's really Buster's father. So, blowing your mind again, Gina.
No, that's in season 2.
Was that in season 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I wish my father was here.
Yeah.
Or is he?
And Lucille's stuff in the Martha Stewart prison.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like the Martha Stewart prison.
With the Asian gang.
Yeah.
The kind of prisons.
The Asian housewives of Orange County or
something
whatever.
Like that.
What did you think about Lucille before she got to that prison when she was on house arrest? How she smoked.
Oh, in Buster's mouth. That was
so bad.
Just cringe.
Yeah, same
every
here.
time.
Oh, that was unbelievable.
Oh.
Was it later on? There's just a little thing where somebody called Buster over, and he ran over to he's like, "Oh no, smoke's coming out." So.
I mean, I think for me the weakest was Portia, was Lindsay's storyline. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was funny. It had its moments, but overall, it was my least favorite.
Some of the characters just need more. Some of them just interact better with others. Once again, Michael is the straight man. Michael is funnier when he's kind of having witty or responsible comments that he's making against things the rest of his family does.
And which is when we see that scene where they're all in the
the
Balboa
one scene
Towers,
all in the house.
where it's like George Michael's graduation party.
Or was it a birthday party?
Or was it? Well, it was birthday. Well, was it?
I'm pretty sure it was a graduation party, and they just started singing "Happy Birthday" because they forgot.
And it was a trial meeting too. And like,
yeah, it was a little bit of everything.
it was like he's sitting there eating cake, and George Senior's offering him like a $50,000 check. And
For a new car.
Michael's like, rip it up.
Yeah.
He's so pissed at him.
$1,000.
But that's really the only scene where all the blues are together. And
Yeah, it's really. And
it-
Anne is there too. It's so funny.
and nobody noticed
Her?
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like that scene comes back in almost every episode from different perspective
Yeah.
as to why they are in the situation they're in at that particular moment.
'Cause-
But it really did make you want more of all them together. It did.
And that's what I hope they move forward with. that a fifth season or a movie, whatever comes next, is done very intentionally. I mean, it's planned that everyone is taking time off to do specifically, the series just like they had did before. And like I said, hopefully at that point, Netflix has enough confidence to completely invest in that.
I mean, it was
Being
good
done.
enough to get me to buy it. So I was a late adopter on Netflix.
I have actually one question. I wonder, I haven't read anything, and this could be out there. I wonder if Netflix plans to release this series on DVD.
There's got to be something with their
That
contract.
would be very nice.
No, I don't think. I mean, I would like to own it because
Yeah.
I own the first. I don't own season 3, oddly enough, but I own the first 2 seasons. I
Yeah.
know y'all own every season.
All 3, yeah.
But you want it in your collection. I mean, Netflix not. I mean, it'll be around forever. I don't know. I guess I'm old fashioned where I like to
yeah.
have something in my
Tangible.
hand.
Yeah.
To know that I have it, and as long as I have a DVD player,
Sure.
I could watch this 50
Well, I mean,
years
I have
from now.
one thing in my house I watch Netflix on, and if I'm somewhere else and I want to take it with me, I just would like to take my season 4 DVD. I mean, it seems like a great way to get more sales, I mean, I don't expect it to be released for, 6 months, 8 months, a year, but I hope they've talked about, releasing it. I'm sure
Yeah.
because people want commentary and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just
definitely.
bringing more money.
It's such a different situation too, because Arrested Development aired on Fox, then it was on Netflix, whereas they have the show House of Cards, which I mean, people are saying it's the best political show since The West Wing.
Mm-hmm.
It has Kevin Spacey in it as
Yeah.
the main. It's something like this high quality, which is something. That's the next show I'm watching on Netflix. But whereas it would make more sense to release Arrested Development as to not release House of Cards, because House of Cards originated from Netflix.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they're gonna keep that exclusive. Can't say it.
Exclusivity.
Exclusivity as long as they can, because it's gonna encourage people to
Get
it.
Netflix.
Yeah.
So,
Like
but just
me.
after a while, I mean, once again, if Netflix is the one that has the rights to it, they're still making money
Exactly.
off of the seasons.
Uh-huh.
Kind of once you realize, okay, nobody's. I mean, I would imagine that within 3 months, there's probably very few people who are specifically ordering Netflix now just to watch season 4 of Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Throw it out there on season 4. After 3 or 6 months, throw it out there on DVD. Make a bunch more money to have a nice cushion for the next
I think they're
project.
in the mindset that, I mean, Netflix would benefit for home video to go away completely. Because
Yeah.
then everybody watches Netflix,
Uh-huh.
watch Instant. They're a monopoly on that Instant. Not a monopoly, but they're the leader in that kind of video on demand instant video circuit. And then they control the price to
Yeah.
what you have to pay. I mean, we could be seeing a world 10 years from now where there's no Blu-ray section. There's no DVD
Yeah.
section. Everything's instant. I would hate that,
Yeah.
but I think that's where we're headed.
I mean, I think we're seeing more and more video games that are being released. Actually,
Y'all talked about it with the Xbox
yeah, not
One.
being physical releases. I mean,
Yeah.
I was thinking
Lot of
about
direct
it, and
downloads.
recently
Yes.
I've bought about 3 games that were specifically only downloads.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see where that goes.
But I think film. I once again, I think film and TV is something that stuff like that is a type of art that we do have to preserve. That it's really important to preserve those things, so that people can watch them. I mean, it's a terrible thought to think that we wouldn't have movies that would have some kind of physical or hard copy of them.
something that's readily available.
Sales a lot though. I mean, if you get rid of
But
your hard copies of things. I mean,
yeah. But once again, and yeah, it's. I mean, Brad's point is there's multiple parties wanting different things. I mean, studios I mean, DVD sales are huge. You know,
Yeah.
Blu-ray sales are huge. People make tons of money off that. Companies make money off players. Here's Netflix. Hey, if they controlled all this media and nobody ever had to buy anything, it all came through them. That's their thing.
You have no choice but to go to them for your home video
Yeah.
stuff.
you've also got Redbox who's doing instant.
I mean, you have
Sure.
options now.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
everything.
It'll just be interesting to see.
You look
what
at video
happens.
stores. There are no more hardly.
Yeah, I
around
mean,
here.
another Blockbuster not too far from us is
Yeah.
going out. You know?
Usually, most video stores are small family-run companies that
Yeah.
are doing their own thing and seem to be doing well.
So if you're
And there's no
out on a
competition.
Friday, if you're like staying in on a Friday night and you want to watch a movie, you can't just run down to get, whatever, but you can order it on demand with one button, which is convenience. But my question is, we've all been in, whether it was when you were in college, getting together with a group of friends, there's this obscure, like maybe, I own all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but maybe you want to watch Nightmare on Elm Street 3 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not available on DirecTV on demand. It's
Or
not
Redbox. Why would Redbox have that?
Yeah,
movie?
it's not on
Exactly.
Netflix. But you
I own it.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I own it. But
I do too.
But you can't go out
Exactly.
to the local DVD or video
Yeah.
store anymore. And
Yeah.
that world just kind of, I won't say it scares me. There's a lot more pressing matters
It
in
does.
the world.
Well,
But
it
upsets me.
significantly severely limits
Well, if
your
you
viewing options.
Yeah.
if you want to watch through like the AFI's top 100 films,
There's gonna be a lot of stuff you're not gonna be able to watch.
you're not going to
yeah.
find probably 90% of those you're not going to find on Instant Watch, on demand,
Exactly.
Redbox, or anywhere, and people still have hard copies.
Jerry,
I wonder.
sorry.
That's
go
okay.
ahead,
I
Jerry.
wonder if this is going to kind of usher in. You know how like vintage arcades are coming into style, and
Mhm.
like there are new mom and pop places popping up that sell, or you
Yes.
can play like the old games. I wonder if that would rise up these mom and pop stores of. You want all these old films? We have all these old films. You can rent them for, whatever.
It's possible.
I think it would be like a kind of a little like cult, like small indie thing. Like they would be here or there, and that would be awesome. I would gladly visit one of those stores and
Yeah.
support their business once we got to that time. But it's not gonna be everywhere,
Yeah.
So and that's just
There will probably be
Yeah.
towns without that stuff, and that's sad.
But
Yeah.
we'll just see what happens. I mean, then again, with digital distribution, you have a good option of making some more obscure films more available.
That's
Well,
true.
I was
We'll
gonna
have to
ask-
see what happens.
I mean, how many of you guys have been exposed to a great movie because you just happened to be in the video store? Maybe you just looked at the case and you're like, "That looks awesome,"
Box art.
Yeah.
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 and then there it is.
That's
Oh.
never happened to me.
My gosh.
I mean, when I was a kid, I would
That's
go
how you
into
pick
the
stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
you would
how
go
pick
to the
stuff as a
video
kid.
store with your parents. They would get what they wanted. Then you would
My
say-
neighbor Totoro may be the only time that ever happened.
Brad,
to
you're
me.
you've talked about Mondo posters, and the perfect example of box art from movies from the 70s and 80s. I mean, that box art was designed to
Yes,
to
to
get
draw
your
you in,
attention.
yes.
It's like a book cover.
And yeah, like a good book cover. And we used to do that with horror movies. We didn't read the back of the movie. We would like look at the cover and be like, that looks awesome. Let's rent it. And sometimes you got
Yeah.
some stinkers, and sometimes you got, some absolute trash. But sometimes you found a gem.
yeah.
And it was kind of one of those, nice things. Now it's like people,
It's a photoshopped image.
well, it's a
If
photoshopped
there's
image.
even a DVD
And
store
I mean,
around you.
we're doing this right now, so it's hypocritical. But I mean, we used to just rent movies, and it's like, well, maybe
Yeah.
it's bad, maybe it's good, or go see a movie. And now, I mean, some people before they spend $4 on a movie will read like every review on Rotten Tomatoes,
Yeah.
which I think gives people a false sense. I'm the kind, I like to be on Netflix, and you know what? If it appeals to me, I'm going to watch it. Just watch John dies at the end the other night. That was a great movie. It was like a blend of a splat stick, as directed by Don Coscarelli, like a blend of a splat stick film like Phantasm. That's not really
I
splat
mean,
stick.
there are opportunities for that same kind of flipping. You can flip through Netflix and say, that looks cool.
Yeah.
See, well, here's the thing. He really enjoyed that movie. It was a little later at night. I was more than happy to just sleep through it while he watched it. And that was perfectly fine because it didn't cost us anything extra to watch it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that is one nice thing. See, there is a risk running movies. Granted, when your parents are paying for it, when you're a little kid, it's not a risk to you, you know?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of
Maybe
thing.
it's
but
better, because my parents would rent me anything unless it just had tons of nudity or something. I mean, they would rent me anything, and maybe that's why I turned out the way I did.
So that is wrong with you.
That explains a lot.
But I don't know. It's just kind of the evolution of everything in home media. It fascinates me.
Well, I don't think we have anything to worry about because we're talking about this like it's going to be the apocalypse of owning things.
But
I mean,
it doesn't affect people like us. Like we have these movies we love. Jerry's DVD collection can
Yeah, that
stack
kinda
up to the
speaks for
Empire
that.
State Building. I have a pretty good collection of movies too, but it's like, okay, what happens to the next generation of people? You
Yeah,
know,
it's not
they're-
on the computer. It's
they're-
not going to be on external hard drives.
they're going to love whatever the technology is that they have.
Yeah.
They're not going to have this
I'm not talking about the
retrospective.
technology. I'm talking about the technology. I love all kinds of new tech too, but I'm talking about the technology limiting the exposure they can have to certain films.
But they're
'Cause
not
it-
going to know that they're being limited because that's all
exactly,
they're
and
gonna know.
that's the travesty.
Yeah, that
Well,
really
see,
is
I don't
kinda
know.
sad.
I don't know because there's a lot of talk right now talking about preserving film, and there's this big debate going on
Yeah.
about all those old
It's been
films
going on
and what
for a
they're going
while.
to do with them. Like, I think
Yes, but they haven't gotten there yet. They haven't made any decisions yet, and they haven't done anything that's gonna that will definitely stick yet.
I mean, I don't think we need to worry so much about it. I think it will work out. Typically, you know, if people make enough noise about, hey, we want these old movies, hey, you know, we want tangible in our hand, we want to pay something at Walmart and bring it home with us. You know, advertisers, companies are going to listen to people because they want people to buy their
There's
product.
people that want to buy. I mean, yeah, there's CDs. You can go buy CDs, but that is almost gone now.
Yeah.
Like you
Hey,
can go
I will tell you, we rarely do I walk in Best Buy. It's just been a while.
Yeah.
We went in Best Buy. Their DVD, Blu-ray collection, their stock was like
It was
half
so
of what
small.
it was last year.
Yeah, it is so small.
I'd say it's bad. I could probably find anything I wanted to online, but it's recognizing that things
Yeah,
that
for
things are
people who
changing.
don't
That's
go
not.
online and
That's
search for
they would
things,
much
it's
rather sell
severely
you a
limited.
big TV that has all these packages
Yeah.
versus selling you a
Yeah, an
disc that
internet-ready TV.
you
then.
have.
And this is coming from somebody who just bought Netflix to watch a show, but I didn't have if you would have told me I could pay $7 or I could watch Arrested Development for free for a month. Okay, I got to watch it free. If I want to drop it after a month, I can.
Yeah.
How awesome is that? That's cool. But if you'd have told me, but you can go to the store and pay $30 and get it on Blu-ray or DVD and have some cool box art and have that to keep forever, I would have
Yeah.
went to the store and bought it.
Yeah,
But that's just me.
yeah. I would have.
Exactly.
I would have too.
But I'm saying there's people who want to. I mean, it's an interesting argument. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I guess that about wraps it up then.
It does. I mean, for those of us who've seen it, I mean, what would you rate this season on our scale?
Me, I say great and a half. The reason that keeps it epic, I mean, it's nearly that keeps it from being epic is we don't have enough of the Bluth to Bluth interaction
Yeah.
that makes the show tick.
I actually pretty much say ditto to that. Great and a half, mainly because you don't have that interaction.
I give it a great and a half because there's not as much Bluth interaction the whole way through, and because Franklin Bluth does not make an appearance. And Franklin Bluth is my favorite Bluth.
He's also the most offensive blue.
He is
yes,
the most.
he is the most
that
offensive.
people
blue.
just aren't ready for what Franklin's got to say. So.
Goodness, I don't
All
think
right.
people will ever be ready.
Well, we'll wrap up here. Brad Bell, where can we check out more of your stuff?
thepicreview.com. I will be back on there writing. I've been super busy
I think
with
we've all been
other
super
career
busy
stuff and
I've been super busy too, writing stuff for thepicreview.com.
I know, but I'm taking an insane grad class.
I hear ya.
But anyway, I'll be back on there shortly, giving more stuff. And then always at Twitter, find me at The Real Brad Bell, REEL, Brad Bell. And on the Facebook page, me and Kristen try to.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Kristen,
can
where can we
go
find
at.
more of your stuff?
Well, as he was just saying, I put a lot of the stuff up on the Facebook page, but also you can follow me on Twitter at Arathalia.
Gina, where can we find more of your stuff?
At the TH Epic Review, and you can follow me on Twitter at Gina Beaner.
And as always, my stuff is on thepicreview.com, but you can also check out all my action figure pictures at my Flickr account, www.flickr.com/photos/barbecue17. And as always, thanks for listening, and we are out.
This episode of the Confirmed Epic Podcast is brought to you by the revolutionary privacy software FakeBlock.